Is Hamas ready for a ceasefire at last, or is it just more lies from a terror group? I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about the weird dynamics of Hamas offering to accept a ceasefire deal. Now, before we crack too much into this, be sure to hit that subscribe button. And of course, if you can, support me over on combatvetnews.com. This is the members only section of the website where we have exclusive, uncensored combat footage straight from the front lines in a lot of cases for members only. Stuff YouTube would never let me show you. The link is in the description. Okay, so this is crazy. But according to at least a number of sources, Hamas says the group is actually agreeing to a Gaza ceasefire proposal, but it's not a proposal from the Israelis, which is a problem. Instead, it's a proposal from Egypt and Qatar, right? Now, this is allegedly based on a framework originally fielded by Steve Witkoff back in June, where the issue was, of course, that a lot of the more, we'll say, the players Palestine trusts, the Egyptians and Qataris, weren't really willing to be involved. Now, this would involve Hamas freeing about half of the 50 remaining hostages, 20 of whom are believed to be alive, in 2 batches during a 60-day ceasefire. Then there would be negotiations on a permanent ceasefire. Now, this happened before, where there was a ceasefire, some level of hostages for prisoners, and then the war resumed actually more intensely. So I'm very skeptical at baseline. And I'm even more skeptical because, well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office says that it was only ready to accept a deal if all the hostages are released in one go. And this is a problem because, as we've seen, Netanyahu has actually been subject to a lot of protests and popular movements, where, again, not so much because the Israelis are mad about the treatment of Palestinians, but instead because they feel the Gaza war is not achieving its objectives and that he's failed to secure the release of remaining hostages. And of course, he turned around and said the demonstrators were pro-Hamas, which again, nothing is more peak militarized government than to turn around and say, you have a problem with my large-scale, long military operation? Well, it must be because you love the people we're fighting. And it's like, no, dude, just stop deploying our soldiers to a pointless war that isn't achieving its objectives. Again, it's like saying, oh, you have a problem with the Iraq war? Well, you must love terrorism. It's like, well, no, it's just not working, right? So this, I think, the ceasefire, again, I think there's a couple of incentives that have happened. The biggest of which is Netanyahu's threat to occupy all of Gaza, to expand the military operation to basically include the entirety of the Gaza Strip. And this would, of course, involve basically turning about 1 to 2 million Palestinian residents into refugees. And you can imagine that the Egyptians do not want a refugee crisis on their border. They've been working tirelessly for decades to make sure the Palestinians do not end up in their country because, well, the Palestinian and Muslim Brotherhood, famous for killing a number of Egyptian leaders, including, I think, if I remember correctly, the iconic leader Gamal Nasser. This is like sort of roughly the equivalent of, he's regarded, one analog would be like killing JFK, right? An iconic leader of the 1960s, really seen as somebody who looms large in the Egyptian popular imagination. So again, Cairo is like, we are not going to let this happen. So Cairo said, listen, you guys have to at least put up something to get the Israelis off your back, right? Qatar's prime minister went to Cairo to, quote, apply maximum pressure on the two sides to reach a deal as soon as possible. And again, this is really partly because there's Israel has created a massive humanitarian crisis, which is, well, actually would normally be pretty bad for their international image, and it has been, but that's never really trickled its way up to governments, right? The American government, both parties continue to be absolutely unabashedly pro-Israel. There is no such thing, according to the governments of the United States and the UK, there's no such thing as an Israeli war crime. It's not possible. The Israelis, by definition, are always supported no matter what they do. So, the Israelis are just not subject to pressure the way the Palestinians are because again, the number one thing incentivizing Qatar and especially Egypt to take action is a bunch of Palestinian refugees. And I strongly suspect the Israeli government may also be kind of playing that game. But it's also true that Israel is subject to popular pressure, where again, after over nearly 2 years of war, hostages' families are like, listen, if a military option was going to work to free hostages, it would have worked already. It's been years. And even some of these guys are saying, listen, it's my children have been held for 2+ years, and no amount of Gaza military operation has done anything. And that's like a compelling argument. And one of the things that a lot of the international community has said is like, listen, this Gaza operation is not effective. You are not releasing hostages. In fact, in a lot of cases, hostages located by the Israeli military are either found dead or actually killed in combat. Again, is it because Hamas is using them as human shields? Is it done in a way that deliberately baits the Israelis into friendly fire? Like, probably the Israelis would not, if they knew, would try not to kill hostages. I don't think that's what they're doing. But the point is that these hostages are too, they just can't be rescued by military means. It's just not feasible. So again, the problem is the Israeli government, Netanyahu, essentially needs this war to keep going in some ways as Putin does. Netanyahu's war is protecting him politically because absent it, he'll face a lot of corruption charges, particularly around his relationship to Qatar. And when you have, it's not unlike Putin, who needs his war to protect him economically, where war spending is essentially the thing keeping the Russian economy afloat. So no side really has an incentive, and this may be Hamas just trying to score points by offering the Israelis a deal that they know they're not going to take. Anyway, guys, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for listening. See ya. Cheers.